Linda was 65. She could never have a baby. Then the doctor said, "You're pregnant." Linda had a big fashion shop. Important people came to buy clothes. They called her Madam Linda and smiled at her. But when she sat alone at home, there was no one to call her Mama. No child, no husband, just silence. She tried to tell herself, "I am happy." But deep inside, she knew it was a lie. People whispered, "A woman without children is not complete." She pretended not to hear. Linda lived in a tall building. She looked down at the busy road. Everyone had somewhere to go. Everyone had someone. But Linda, she had no one. She had a big house, fancy clothes and money. People respected her. But inside she felt empty. Tonight, she had to go to a big party, a fancy one. She put on her best dress. Maybe tonight she would forget everything, just for a little while. She worked hard every day. She bought gold and diamonds, but at night, she held nothing but her pillow, and pillows don't love back. Men came into Linda's life. But when they found out she could not have children, they left, one by one. They all wanted a real family. She had tried everything, doctors, prayers, herbs from old women in the village, but nothing worked. At 65, she gave up. She told herself, "I don't need a child to be happy." But when she saw a mother holding her baby, her heart ached. People did not say it out loud, but she knew what they thought. She is rich, but she is alone. And alone was worse than poor. The gala was bright and full of life. Music played, people danced, laughter filled the air. Linda walked in, tall and proud. She wore a golden dress. Eyes turned to her. People smiled, greeted her. She smiled back. But inside, she felt nothing. Then she saw him, a man, alone, watching her. There was something strange about him. His eyes looked too deep, like he knew something she didn't. Linda ignored him. She took a sip of her drink. But when she turned, again, he was walking towards her, and suddenly the whole world felt quiet. He stopped in front of her. He smiled. "You don't know me," he said, "but I know you." Linda frowned. "That's impossible." "Is it?" he asked. His voice was calm, deep, smooth like a river at night. She felt strange, like she had met him before. But where? He held out his hand. "Dance with me." Linda wanted to say no, but her hand had already moved. She placed it in his, and the moment they touched, she felt something, like a dream she had forgotten, like a story she had lived before. But how? They danced. The music faded. It was just them. "Who are you?" Linda whispered. He smiled. "Someone who waited for you." Her heart pounded. "I don't understand." "You will." She pulled away. "This is foolish." He leaned closer. "Time bends for those who truly desire." Linda laughed. "What does that even mean?" He didn't answer. Instead, he touched her cheek just for a second. A cold rush went through her body. A memory, a voice she almost knew. She gasped, and in that moment, she knew. She had met him before. But when and where? Linda had stopped believing in love. At 65, she had built walls around her heart, thick and unshakable. Men had come and gone, all leaving when they learned she could never bear children. She had long accepted it. Love was not meant for her. Then came David. He was different, confident, warm, and full of life. He spoke to her like she was the most precious thing in the world. He did not care about her wealth, nor her status. He saw her. At first, Linda resisted. Love was dangerous. It always ended in pain. But David was patient. He brought her tea in the mornings, held her hand in the evenings. He told her stories that made her laugh, that made her dream again. "You are not alone, Linda," he said one night, his voice soft. "You never were." For the first time in years, she let herself believe love was possible even now. It was a night unlike any other. The city was alive with music, the air thick with warmth. Linda and David sat together, their hands intertwined. "Do you trust me?" David whispered. Linda hesitated, then nodded. He kissed her, slow and deep. A fire ignited within her, a feeling she thought had died long ago. The walls she had built crumbled. That night she gave in, surrendering to the love she had always been denied. It was more than passion. It was a moment of rebirth. As she lay beside him, she felt something shift inside her, something she could not explain. A new beginning had taken root. Linda was never sick. So when she felt dizzy one morning, she ignored it. When nausea hit, she blamed the food. But when exhaustion followed, she knew something was wrong. She visited her doctor expecting the usual. "Just rest more." Instead, the doctor paled, staring at the test results. "Linda, this is impossible," she whispered. Linda frowned. "What is? You're pregnant." The room spun. Linda laughed, a nervous, shaky sound. "That can't be. You know I can't." But the doctor shook her head. The tests did not lie. Pregnant. At 65, Linda's hands trembled as she touched her stomach. A miracle? Or something else entirely? Word spread like wildfire, a blessing from the ancestors. Some women exclaimed, others whispered in fear, "A woman this old? It's unnatural." Linda ignored them. This was her miracle. After a lifetime of emptiness, she was finally carrying a child. But at night, doubts crept in. This was not normal. How was this even possible? And why had it happened now? One evening, an old woman approached her on the street. Her voice was cracked with age. "Not every gift is a blessing, child. Some come with a price." Linda shivered. David was gone. One day he was there, kissing her forehead, telling her everything would be okay. The next, he disappeared. His phone number did not exist. His apartment was empty. No one at the gala remembered him. It was as if he had never been there at all. Linda searched everywhere. She hired investigators. She begged old friends for help. Nothing. "Maybe he ran away," someone suggested. "Maybe he was never real," another whispered. But Linda knew better. David had been real. She had felt his touch, heard his heartbeat, and now he was gone, just as she carried the impossible child. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. Desperate, Linda dug into David's past. She found nothing, no records, no family, no history. A private investigator called her one evening, his voice uneasy. "Miss Linda, I don't know how to say this, but..." He hesitated. "There is no David, not just now, ever." Her stomach lurched. "That's impossible. I was with him. He was real." "Maybe not in the way you think," the investigator murmured. "We need to talk." Linda's grip tightened around the phone. David was gone. But what if he had never been human to begin with? Then, the strange things started happening. Mirrors did not reflect her correctly. Her reflection was always a second too slow. Lights flickered whenever she entered a room. Strangers on the street stopped and stared at her belly with wide, fearful eyes. One night, as she walked past an alley, a homeless man whispered, "It has begun again. The cycle must be broken." Linda froze. "What did you say?" But he was already gone. Her baby kicked inside her. The movement was not normal. It was too strong, too knowing. Linda clutched her belly, dread curling around her heart. Something was coming, and she was not ready. Linda sat in her office staring at her phone. David had vanished. No calls, no messages. It was as if he had never existed. Frustrated, she dialed a number. A deep voice answered. "Detective Cole, I need you to find someone for me." Cole took the case. Days passed. He checked records, CCTV footage, even the guest list from the gala. Nothing. No David. It was impossible. Then he called her. "Meet me, now." Linda rushed to his office. Cole looked pale. He handed her an old newspaper, a headline from 100 years ago. 65-year-old woman pregnant under mysterious circumstances, then vanishes. Linda's hands shook. "What is this?" "This happened before," Cole said. "Same city, same story, same age, then gone." Linda's breath caught. "Gone where?" Cole shook his head. "No one knows. But there's more." He handed her another paper, dated a century earlier. The same story. Linda's knees buckled. "It's repeating," Cole whispered. "And now it's you." Linda gasped. She felt sick. This wasn't just a mystery. It was a nightmare. Linda sat frozen, staring at the papers. This isn't real." Cole sighed. "I thought the same, until I found this." He handed her a faded photo. Linda's breath hitched. It was her. Same face, different clothes, an old-time setting. "That's impossible," she whispered. Her name was Amara. She lived 100 years ago, and she was pregnant. "Just like you." Linda's head spun. "Where is she now?" "Vanished before giving birth, just like all the others." A chill ran through Linda. "Others?" Cole hesitated. Every 100 years, one woman, one impossible pregnancy, then gone. Linda gripped the table. "Then what happens to the baby?" Silence. Cole didn't have an answer, and that terrified her most. The knock startled Linda. It was late. Too late for visitors. She hesitated. Then cautiously she opened the door. An elderly woman stood there. Her eyes were sunken, her hands wrinkled. But her face, Linda gasped. It was like looking into a mirror, aged by decades. Who are you?" The woman exhaled. "I was you once, and you will be me." Linda's knees weakened. "What are you saying?" "It's happening again," the woman said. "The cycle must end." Linda's heart pounded. "What cycle?" The woman reached out, gripping Linda's hand. Her skin was cold. "You must listen, before it's too late." Linda stepped back. "No, this isn't real." But deep inside, she knew it was. Linda shook her head. "You're lying. This is some trick." The woman sighed. "I thought the same. I fought it. I refused to believe, but the truth doesn't care." Linda's hands trembled. "Who are you?" "I was Amara," the woman said. 100 years ago, and before that I was Nia, and before that Zara. Always the same story. Always the same fate." Linda's breath quickened. "What fate?" The woman's eyes darkened. "To carry the child. To disappear. To begin again." Linda clutched her stomach. "No, I won't vanish." The woman looked sad. "Neither did I. Until I did." Linda wanted to run. But where? "Every 100 years the cycle repeats," the woman said. "A woman is chosen. A child is conceived. But this child, it bends time. It was never meant to exist." Linda's pulse raced. "Then why me?" The woman sighed. "Because the loop demands it." Linda's head pounded. "What happens if I don't have the baby?" The woman flinched. "No one knows. No one has ever stopped it." Linda clenched her fists. "Then I'll be the first." The woman's gaze softened. "That's what I said too." A tear slipped down Linda's cheek. "And yet here you are." The woman nodded. "Yes, here I am." Linda held her stomach. The baby kicked. The cycle had begun again. "David isn't a man," the woman whispered. Linda's blood ran cold. "What? He is the key, the one who starts it all. He appears, he seduces, he vanishes." Linda's chest tightened. "Then, what is he?" The woman's lips pressed together. "Something beyond us. Not human, not mortal, just a force." Linda's heart pounded. "Did he love me?" The woman hesitated. "He doesn't understand love, only the cycle." Tears burned Linda's eyes. "Then he was never real." The woman sighed. "He was real, just not in the way you hoped." Linda looked at the woman. "How do I stop this?" The woman's face darkened. "I don't know. No one ever has." Linda's hands shook. "Then I'll be the first." The woman stepped closer. "And if you fail?" Linda inhaled sharply. "Then I'll try again. And again. Until it ends." The woman's eyes glistened. "Then maybe, just maybe, you are the one we've been waiting for." Linda gripped her stomach. The baby kicked harder. The decision was near, and the world was watching. Linda gasped, clutching her stomach as pain tore through her. The air around her shimmered like heat rising from the ground. A clock on the wall ticked backward. "What is happening?" she whispered. The contractions came fast. With every wave of pain, the room flickered between past and present. One moment, she stood in her boutique, young and carefree. The next, she was in a dimly lit room 100 years ago, surrounded by faces she didn't recognize. A voice whispered in her ear, "It is time." She tried to move, but her feet sank into the floor as if she were being pulled into another time. The faces blurred. Her reflection in the mirror changed. Young, old, gone. She wasn't just in labor. She was shifting through time itself. She screamed as another contraction hit, knowing this was more than birth. It was unraveling. Linda collapsed onto the bed, gasping. Shadows swirled around her. A vision struck her. A woman in a 1920s dress held her belly, sobbing. "I don't want to disappear," she cried before vanishing into mist. Then another. A woman in the 1800s clutching a newborn, only for both to dissolve like sand. Linda saw them all. Women like her, chosen, used, erased. Their pain, their fear, it all lived inside her. "No," she muttered, shaking her head. "I am not them." The contractions intensified, but Linda fought against the visions. Her past selves reached out, their voices merging. "You must break the cycle." She clenched her fists. The past would not claim her. She would fight. Another scream ripped through her as the final vision came. Her own face, older, wiser, whispering, "Choose wisely." The final contraction surged through Linda like fire. The air split apart, light and darkness clashing. A voice echoed, "You were never meant to exist. Let go." "No," she screamed, reaching for something, anything to hold on to. A storm of memories swirled. She saw herself at 5, dreaming of a family. Herself at 20, believing love would last. Herself at 65, thinking it was too late. But this wasn't about the past. It was about now. "I choose me," Linda declared. The world convulsed. The forces pulling her apart resisted, but she pushed back. A blinding light exploded around her, and then silence. She fell, weightless, her mind spinning. Had she won? Had she lost? Darkness swallowed her whole. The silence was heavy, suffocating. Linda floated in an abyss, her heartbeat the only sound. Was she dead? Had she broken the cycle? Her fingers grasped at the nothingness, searching for something real. Then a whisper, "Wake up." She gasped, eyes flying open. She was standing, heart pounding. No pain, no contractions, no time warping around her. She gasped, eyes flying open. She was standing, heart pounding, no pain, no contractions, no time warping around her. Had she won, or was this another trick? Linda looked down at her hands, young, smooth. Her reflection stared back. 25. Again, her boutique stood untouched, customers chatting like nothing had changed. Had it all been a nightmare? She exhaled, relief washing over her until the doorbell chimed. A man entered, his smile warm, familiar. "Hello," he said. Linda's blood turned to ice. David. But this time he wasn't a stranger. He was a beginning or an ending. Linda tried to breathe, tried to think. But David's eyes locked onto hers, and in that moment she knew. The cycle had not ended. It had only begun again. And this time she had no idea how to stop it. If this story left you on the edge of your seat, wondering, what happens next? You're not alone. Will Linda break free from the cycle, or is she trapped forever? Who or what is David really? And if the past keeps repeating, can the future ever change? If you want part 2, comment below. Let me know your theories, your favorite moments, and what you think Linda should do next. See you in the next video. Subscribe now for gripping stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. Like and share to keep African storytelling alive. Turn on notifications, don't miss a single tale.